Hi, today I just wanted to share a little bit with you about how I started doing homeless ministry and also tell you about one of the very first homeless individuals that I met out on the street. So, I've been doing homeless ministry for 19 years and I started on Skid Row in Los Angeles. I would go down there and just spend time with the individuals down there on the street. I would go and talk with them, give them words of encouragement, and I would hand out things that I had with me at the time. And I really enjoyed doing that. And one of the very first individuals that I met on Skid Row was a young gentleman. He must have been in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. And the thing that caught my attention with him was he was wearing a green velour sport jacket. And I'll tell you, green happens to be my very first favorite color. So, of course, that stood out. He stood out among all the other individuals there. And once I got to talking with him and he was telling me a little bit about his story, it just made me feel really sad because this was a young man who had been homeless for 4 years. And the way he ended up homeless is he used to work for a upscale department store. And he used to be the clothes buyer for the department store. Now, he had a very good paying job. He had all the nice things that you would expect from that kind of salary and position. And unfortunately, he got sick, and his illness turned into a long-term sickness. And so when he tried to go back to work after an extended period of time, he found out that his place of employment didn't want him back anymore because he had been gone too long. And so at the time, what he started doing is he had to keep the roof over his head. So he started using the savings that he had at the time. And he went through all his savings. Once he finished with his savings, he still couldn't find a job. And he started selling all of his material possessions. He sold his car. He sold his television, everything that he had that had any value, he sold it just to keep the roof over his head. Well, he went through all of that, and he was still not employed. And he ended up couch surfing at families' homes. They would let him stay temporarily here and there. But then it came to a point where they didn't want him there anymore. So they kind of, maybe in a nice way, told him he needed to move along. And so that's how he ended up on the street. And when I met him, he had a shopping cart with just a few things in it, and that was the sum of all his material possessions. And I tell you, it broke my heart to see him because the green velour sport jacket that he had was something that he had from his previous life when things were really good in his life. And he really loved that jacket. But after about 4 years, that jacket started to look pretty beaten up, especially when you're laying on the street. So the jacket had stains on it. The thing that caught my attention, because I'm very detail oriented and I catch little things, I noticed the cuffs on his jacket were very frayed. They were starting to show a lot of wear and tear and dirty, but he still loved that jacket. He loved that jacket so much because that jacket reminded him of when he had a better life. And it was just sad. I talked to him and I tried to give him words of encouragement. And even though he was homeless, he was not bitter at all. He just accepted his fate. And he tried. He really did try to look for work. But how can you look for work when you don't have a permanent address? And let's say family doesn't want you using their address for you to get mail. You have no money to pay for a post office box. He didn't have money to wash his clothes, to have them pressed. I mean, he had no money. And so how do you go to job interviews when you're in a position like that? And so even though he tried looking for work, he just couldn't find any. And he just kind of accepted what life had brought him. But he wasn't angry. He wasn't bitter. He was the sweetest man I've ever met. And so I tell you this story, hopefully, to enlighten you, to help you to realize that not all homeless people are drug addicts, not all homeless people are alcoholics, not all homeless people are criminals, and on and on and on. Because there's too many people nowadays that just use the same stamp on all homeless people. To them, everybody's a crook. Everybody's a no good for nothing. And I say to people, do not be so quick to judge. Because first of all, who are you to be passing judgment on these individuals? You do not know their story. You do not know their struggles. You do not know what they've been through. Only them and God. And so I say to you, if you see a homeless individual, don't be so cruel and call them bad names. And I say this because I've had a lot of people, when I tell them this is what I do, that's the first thing out of their mouth. Oh, they're probably criminals. Oh, they're drug addicts. And it really hurts me because I'm truly a lover of the homeless. And with my ministry, I've been trying to make a difference in individuals' lives that are out on the street. And so I say to you, be a little kinder with the words that you use when describing these individuals. Because you know, you may be just one day away from being in their shoes. And you never know when your table may turn and you may end up in their situation, in the way they are. So just try and be kind to each other. It is so easy to be kind if one chooses to. I've had people insult me for the work that I do. I've had people call me stupid, call me an idiot, call me all kinds of things because of what I do with the homeless. And I say to you, you know, I hope you are never in that position where you have to ask for help, where you ask for food, where you ask for clothes, because it can happen to anybody. And I just wanted to share this story with you so that hopefully it'll open your eyes a little bit. And I want you to know what I do, it's nothing. Anybody can do what I do. What I do is nothing special. I see it that way. There's nothing special in what I do. I mean, I go around carrying food in my car, clothes in my car, and I hand these things out. Anybody can do that. You don't need any special training. You just need to have a willing and compassionate heart to do that. And I remember reading something about Mother Teresa that she said, if you cannot feed 100 people at least feed one. One, that's all it takes. So, anyway, just wanted to share my story a little bit about how I got involved with homeless ministry. And I hope you will have a blessed day. And I want you to know that God loves you very, very much, whether you believe it or not. I want you to know that God loves you very much, regardless of where you are in life. So, anyway, that's a little bit about my story.